folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about the collapse of our civilization. Before you roll your eyes, laugh, and turn the video off, just stick with me. It's not as crazy as you think. And I'm not quite as far out there as you might think. Just give me a chance to explain. Before I get started, I have a prepping tip for today. While you are acquiring the things that you need to be prepared, don't forget to get the tools and the parts needed to maintain things. This morning I was doing some sharpening, and so, you have sharpening stones, files, tools to maintain pretty much anything. Because remember, as things get worse, these kind of things could be hard to get, or it just may be difficult for you to get out to the places to get them. So don't forget that kind of stuff. I would suggest start writing a list of all the stuff that you have that you maintain and do your homestead with. Starting in the kitchen is a good place. Go over kitchen appliances and tools, maintaining your house, your farm, vehicles, firearms, cleaning kits for those, spare parts kits, and those aren't too expensive. And most of the time, parts for certain items aren't that expensive. You can buy parts kits for a firearm, different parts kits for maybe a mower or chainsaw, and then just the stuff to maintain them. It's not too expensive to do that, and it's a good idea to have this stuff sitting around so that you can maintain your own equipment, because we live in this disposable world now, and so many people, if something breaks down, we just buy a new one, right? Well, we may not be able to do that in the future, and it's already starting to get to that place now. So you're between your vehicles, your farm equipment, that just maintaining your homestead, how you garden, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you have the tools and equipment and the parts to maintain it for as long as you can. I also want to mention something I've actually forgotten to say in the last couple of days in regards to our meeting that we had. So this is for those of you that attended the meeting on Sunday. If I did not get to talk to you and you wanted to talk to me about something, I do apologize. I said there was somewhere around 300 people there, so it was difficult to get to everyone. And I know, and I'm starting to hear responses from people saying, hey, I was wanting to talk to you Sunday and I just didn't get to you. I apologize for that. Just try to, email me, and I'm slowly getting caught up on the emails. So, we'll get into be able to communicate with you eventually. It was just a little overwhelming with that many people. So, what do I mean by a civilization collapse? I think for some of the people, when they hear that and they kind of think, oh my goodness, this is some wacky conspiracy theory stuff. This is so far out there. And the reason is, I think, is in their minds, they envision that a collapse of civilization is going to look something like a Mad Max movie or Book of Eli or some other apocalyptic movie like that. And while that certainly could be a possibility, most likely that's not what we're going to see. Civilizations collapse all the time throughout history. And when they collapse, it doesn't look like the Book of Eli or Mad Max. They just collapse, something takes its place, and they kind of move on. And there's usually a period of things that are kind of rough and chaotic. And sometimes what takes its place is better, but a lot of times what takes its place is worse. And that is what we, or at least I, am preparing for. Because all these things that we talk about, stuff going on in Afghanistan, stuff going on here with the thing, all the things that we're hearing about that's happening with the planet, and weather pattern changes and increased earthquakes and flooding in certain areas and droughts in other areas. I believe it's all leading us down the path to a collapse of our civilization. And I believe that's something that we should be wary of, and that we should be preparing for. Because if that happens, and I believe that the possibility of that happening in our lifetime, and I'm 43, I think we're going to go through a period that's most people, even preppers, even the prepared-minded people, we're just not really ready for. I believe that it's going to set the stage for our world to be in such a state that it's difficult for the average person to make it in, to survive in. And so what's going to happen is whatever power rises up, whatever system comes to take its place, that most definitely will be more controlling, more invasive, that people will be forced to stay alive. They will be forced to capitulate to that, to fall in line, to do as they're told. And so what we're doing as preparedness and self-sufficient people is trying to set ourselves up and build communities around ourselves in a way that when that happens, that A, we will be able to survive, we will be able to thrive and live a pretty good life, and B, we won't feel forced to fall on the knees and kiss the hand that feeds us because we're starving or because we need something, and we won't need to do that because we have prepared ourselves. And so that's when I start talking about the fall of civilization. That's what I'm getting at. You can go back and you can look at many other civilizations. Obviously, the one that's mentioned the most is the Roman Empire, but that's certainly not the only one. I mean, look at the Russians. The Russians have gone through revolutions where in a sense, their governments collapsed, and they went through a period of a bad time, and some new form came up and took its place, and then that collapsed and a new form came and took its place. And even though that may not be a complete collapse of civilization, it's definitely shows how a nation can completely collapse in the government and the economy, and become a very difficult environment to survive in. And yet there's still infrastructure, there's still some semblance of law and order, and then something takes its place. The World Economic Forum has been talking about this, folks. When we talk about, myself and others, talk about the Great Reset, that's what it is. Okay, that's what they're talking about. I believe that. I haven't flat out heard any of them say, well, the Great Reset means that we're expecting civilization to collapse and we're going to just take over with some new form. But if you get in to start reading their documentation, if you read and watch the videos that they produce, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about all the stuff that's happening. Fragile global economy, fragile food supply systems, fragile health environment due to this crazy, global health scare, and so on, and the breakdown of the family and the breakdown of morality and all of these things all point to the fact that modern Western civilization is crumbling. And so they have a plan to reset it, to take advantage of it. And they flat out say that. They say that, they cannot lose the opportunity to take advantage of this moment and to change, to reset, to rebuild, to re-envision a new world, a new revolution, a new industrial revolution, a complete change in how things are done, a new form of governance, a new form of food supply systems, a new form of how we interact with the climate, a new form of how we interact from nation to nation, and so on and so forth. What they're talking about when they mention and they talk about this reset, they're referring to, in a sense, civilization collapsing, and these global elites from these World Economic Forum and other entities like that are coming in and presenting something that will take its place. And that's what, behind the scenes, all of these global elites are doing, is they are setting the stage. They're setting up the chessboard so that when the current civilization collapses, they will have something in place to take over. And yes, this current global health crisis is exactly just a big part of their plan. And I believe it is orchestrated. I'm not saying that there's nothing out there to actually harm you, but I believe that it is being orchestrated. Some of the stuff that's coming out, just obviously in the last few days, the FDA approval, but there's been all this talk over the last few weeks that, the current thing just may not last. It may not be any good eventually. We've been hearing that. We've been hearing different experts come out and say, and different reports say that, it's good now. You should have it. You should have it. Everybody should go out and do it. We need to mandate it. We need to mandate it. We've been hearing that. But then at the same time, they're also saying, but at some point, it's going to mutate to the point that this thing is not going to be effective any longer. We've had the CEO of Pfizer itself say pretty much the same thing, that at some point they predict that this thing will mutate to a point to where what you're putting in you isn't going to be effective anymore. And it's really not that outlandish for them to say that, because if you understand how things like this bug that's going around works and how it's able to transmit from human to animal and back, it is going to mutate. It is going to do that. And so what they're saying, in a sense, if you read between the lines, we have found that golden ticket for the world's global reset, because we can just play on this and we can use this and we can milk this global health crisis for years by continually pushing for more of this, more control, more fear, more lockdowns, more restrictions, more manipulation of markets, more manipulation of global politics, controlling you, your family. It's perfect for them, right? This kind of stuff is what we're talking about when we're saying that this is being orchestrated. They're trying, I believe, and I know this is a conspiracy theory, that at least it's a theory, because I don't have exact proof. I can just tell you all these little circumstantial things that are happening here in the United States and across the globe. Even this over there in Afghanistan. I believe it's very orchestrated. I believe it's very controlled and planned. I believe we have an administration that's probably doing the bidding of another world leader. And do I have proof of that? No. But I think that's probably what's happening. I think it's all being done to set us up in a place that it's going to speed up the collapse of what's around us. And the reason is these globalists, these CEOs of big companies, and especially these big tech companies, they want all this new stuff in place. They want to control the food systems. They want to control the economy better with their global currencies and their biometric IDs. They want to control travel. They want to manipulate and own property so that you don't own it. They want to control geopolitics under one big umbrella. And then in the end, they want to control you and control your body and control your mind with the the rapid increase in advanced technologies that are being pushed constantly. Everything from artificial intelligence to robotics and to the implementation of this technology into the human body. And I know for some of you that aren't aware of this, you might say, this is again far-fetched, man. Get online and do the research. The World Economic Forum, they have plenty of videos stating this. The CEOs of companies like Google and Facebook and Twitter and Tesla and all these companies, they're flat out saying that this is what they're working on. This is what their end goal is. This transhuman, which is the blending of technology and organic matter, basically technology and humans combined. This is all part of their plan. So that's why they want this current civilization to collapse. They want it to fall. And so I believe the things that we're seeing happen around the world is being done in large part to set the stage so that this new world will be able to be unveiled. Again, I know for a lot of you, you might say this is pretty far-fetched. What's this have to do with preparedness? What does this have to do with homesteading? Well, let me tell you what it has to do with it. Because about the only way that you can avoid, possibly, even possibly avoid, being caught up in this trap of this new change, this global reset, a new world, is to be as independent and self-sufficient as possible. If you're not, then you're going to have to eat, you're going to need medical care, you're going to need to be able to take care of yourself or have someone do it. And so if you're not able to take care of yourself on your own, your family on your own, then your only options would be to perish or to fall in line with their orders. And so that's why preparedness, being self-sufficient, is so important, more important now than ever. It's not just about, an immediate return on health or saving a little bit of money in your food costs or your utilities or having a little bit of peace and serenity by living out in the woods like this. It's also about the very survival of you and your family. We don't know how long this is going to last. We don't know how bad it's going to get. They may win, they may not win. We don't know. But what I do believe is that the time between now and whenever this is all over, if you and I are still around, all that time in between, there's going to be some pretty rough periods that we have to go through. And so that's why I want to encourage you over and over again in every video to get out there and to prepare as hard as you can and as much as you can. Stock up. Prepare your mind. Prepare your body. Prepare your soul. Because we're going to be attacked more and more. We're seeing this in other countries. We're seeing what's going on in Australia. We're seeing what's happening in China, in Europe, and what's starting to happen here in the United States. Get yourselves ready, folks. Get your house in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because the world that you grew up in doesn't really exist anymore. We are in the midst of a collapse of our civilization. And you and I may be around long enough to watch a new one rise up from the ashes. And you just have to make up your mind what you're going to do. Are you going to be part of that new system? Or are you going to do your very best to live outside of that system and take care of your own? All right, folks. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.